All right, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good day. So, last class we were getting into the history of the internet. We also talked about how the internet works, right? We talked about the idea of servers and browsers, and basically the idea of a network, computer network, right? Okay. So today is going to be today's module is going to be, we're actually going to start to write HTML, or hypertext markup language. Okay. So we're going to learn how to write HTML, which will be able to be loaded or parsed by a browser. So for this class, you're going to need a coding program and a browser to work with. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Visual Studio Code in a second. I'm also going to be working from drill files here. So it says under module files, it says in-class exercises, and then it says HTML basics. So these are going to be the drill files that I give to you guys. So what's going to happen is I'm going to have videos where I am going through these drills with you. And the point of these drills is to teach basic, understanding of coding and things like that. So these are purely for practice. Okay, and what I mean by that is you don't have to submit them. They are not graded. So you don't have to save them, you don't have to turn them into Canvas. I don't want them, okay? So drills are not graded or submitted. Eventually, though, I will give you labs. Labs are going to be worked on at home and graded, okay? So if I call something a drill or an exercise, that means it's not graded, and if it's a lab or an assignment, then it will eventually be graded, okay? I will always give you guys 99% of the time when I give you guys files, they will be in a zip format. A zip is what we call, or a .zip is a compression format. Okay. So the way that you unzip a file is you would click on this. This is going to download as a zip file. So it's going to download to wherever you normally download your files to. This is going to go into my downloads folder. I'm just going to move it to my desktop. All right, so here's my desktop. There's my file. To unzip it, I'm simply just going to double click, 1, 2, if you have a Mac. And that is going to unzip my files right there. Okay. If you're on a Windows, you can still unzip it. The process is a little different. The way it would work is you would right click. There'll be I can't do it because I'm recording this on a Mac, so I don't have, the interface is not going to look the same, but the way it would work is you would right click, there would be an option that says send to, and you would go to, there should be an option that says extract all, and that would unzip the files. You have to say, when you extract all, you have to say where do you want to save the files. I would save them to your desktop or wherever is the most convenient for you. One thing to note, that on a Windows machine, you can technically work with files that are still zipped. So if you brought in a zip file that I give you and you load it into a program, you may be able to read it, but you wouldn't be able to save it. So Windows does have this weird issue where you're technically allowed to work with files that are still technically zipped. So I always recommend always unzip files before working with them. This is going to make your life a lot easier, so it avoids any problems. Okay. If you have a Mac, when you unzip, it automatically unzips. You can't work in a Mac with a zip file with it still being zipped. It doesn't even allow you to do that. All right. So make sure you have the files for that. I'm also going to be working with some slides. Okay. So feel free to download the slides. They are a PDF. You can load them into whatever you standardly use as your PDF reader. The other thing is you guys do need to have your coding programs. I talked about this over the last 2 modules. So if you haven't already, this is where you're going to need to download a coding application. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. Okay, you can click here, right here in the module. I'm going to go here, and this is what it's going to look like. Okay, this is the website. If you haven't already, you need to download it. It's pretty simple. This is the front page. It should look roughly like this. What you want to do is click in the upper right-hand corner where it says download, or there should also be usually a download button right here on the middle left. It should automatically typically know whether or not you're on a Windows or a Mac OS operating system. If it doesn't, you can always just click and then, choose which operating system you want to download for. I'm just going to download it. Oops. I'm going to let that So I'm downloading it. It's not a particularly huge file. It's about 100 and 200 megabytes, roughly, give or take. Okay. So mine downloaded to my downloads folder right here. Oops. I think I actually downloaded the code. This is a little more than I think you really need to do, but yeah. So once it's unzipped, I could put it into my application folder, or if you're on Windows, it should give you the option to download it. So just make sure you have the file located. All right, so you're going to need the files, and you're going to need Visual Studio Code. I'm on a Mac, so I'm just going to go under my applications, and I should be able to go find Visual Studio Code. It goes alphabetically, and run the program. All right, this is Visual Studio Code. Before I really start teaching you guys HTML, I just need to show you guys how to use or how to set up this this program. It's a pretty simple program. It's basically a simple text editor. If you wanted to make a new file in Visual Studio Code, you could go to up here under File, New File. You can see it makes a new text file, I should say. This would make a new file. This is also where you can open, save. Over here on the left side, if I click under my left, this actually allows me to explore folders that are on my desktop. So if you have a group of files together, a lot of times you're going to have them in folders. You can actually load a folder into here, and this would allow you to explore that. So actually what I'm going to do is add the DIGM HTML Basics folder so I can have easy access to all of the files that are already inside of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to where it says Add Folder to Workspace. So what this is going to do is load in a folder that's on my computer so I have access, or easy access, to see all the files. So I'm going to go to Add Folder to Workspace, and I'm going to use the folder here, which is DIGM 15-3 for day 3 or module 3 HTML Basics, and I'm going to hit Add. And then you'll notice this is the name of the folder. I can click on it to open and close it, and then I actually get access to all the files inside of it. You can use this button actually here to quickly make a brand new file or make a brand new subfolder. We're not going to do source control or run and debug. That's a little more advanced. If you want, this is sort of a tab. You can notice that I can make this bigger or smaller. When you add files, they tab here. Over here is what we call a mini map that allows you to kind of scroll up and down the code. Okay. You can switch. This sort of adds panels or toggles panels. We're not going to be using this one for this course. You can kind of toggle that or click here. Either way would work. Let's say you can change the color if you like. The way you would do that, the color scheme is by going under Preferences, Settings, actually Color Theme. So right now I have it set to dark or Visual Studio. That's usually the default. Some people like lighter themes, so you could use something like light. If that's easier for you to see, or it's more of like a sort of beigey kind of color. These are other dark. Basically, with the darker ones, it's typically a black or all, off black background with a colored text. I typically just keep it as the standard. You can find whatever color theme works the best. You can also technically download some if you'd like to. But I'm just going to switch mine back to Visual Studio. The other thing, too, about Visual Studio Code is it has something called extensions, okay? Extensions are a bit like, they're like extensions for Google Chrome. So an extension in Google Chrome allows you to install an extension, then you have sort of extra functionality that lets you do things in Chrome, like Grammarly or AdBlock or something like that. And that's kind of what these extensions for Visual Studio Code do too. So there's like the regular Visual Studio Code program, and then there's some extensions we can install that would allow us to add more functionality to the application. Okay, so it's down here. It kind of looks like kind of like a Tetris piece kind of going on here. It says extensions. I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to click to open this up. I actually already have a fair amount. I'm just going to uninstall them temporarily so I can install them and show you. Now there's a lot I have going on here. You guys don't need all of them. This is for people who do a little more programming. The way you would search for extensions is there's a little search feature here, and you can type in the name of whatever you'd like your extension to be. There's two specific extensions I want you guys to install. One is called Beautify, and the other is called Open in Browser. This is going to make our job of opening up a file into a browser to check it a lot easier. Beautify will help us when we start getting more code to tidy up the code and make it more manageable. Okay, so I'm going to try to install that. So I'm going to go to extensions and just literally type in the name Open in Browser, hit return. These are my search results, and I get a lot. I'm just going to use the default one, or the one that I'm most used to, which is this one. I'm going to click on it. Over here on the right side, it'll just tell you about who created it, how many people have downloaded it. So it's been downloaded 6.1 million times, star system. This is version 2. This just gives you an idea of what it does in case you were, not familiar. Looks like it was last updated 2018. I'm going to hit install to install this. Okay. It's pretty quick, especially if it's a small file and you have a fast internet. So I have this now installed. The other one we're going to install is called Beautify. So I'm going to go back here, type in the word Beautify. And I'm going to hit install. I know it says depreciated, but, I'm okay with that. Maybe eventually I'll look for a replacement, but for now, this is fine. Okay. So these are the two that I'd like you guys to install. Once you install it, it's a good idea to restart. Anytime you install an extension into Visual Studio Code, it's a good idea to quit the program and then come back in. That ensures that the extensions have been installed properly. So I'm just going to close it. I'll go back in, open it back up. Alright, so if you haven't already, I'd like you guys to do that. Download the files for today. Install Visual Studio Code if you've not already. And install those extensions, as I asked you to do. And add the folder that I just gave you guys to download. Add it, go to File, Add Folder to Workspace, so that you end up having something that looks roughly like this.